On this episode of Locked On Angels, after winning 8 in a row, the Halos now have dropped their 4th in a row to the Yankees last night. We started from the bottom, and now we're back there at the bottom. And we've got the details and the stats and the complaints for you right now. It's time to get locked on with Mike and John, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. You can find us anywhere you get your podcast, including Apple Podcast, Spotify, and SiriusXM by searching Locked On Angels. And if you'd like to give back to the Super Halo Bros for all the Super Halo content, here's some things that you can do. Leave us a rate and a review on Apple Podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. And if you're not subscribed already, please subscribe and become a Locked On Everydayer. And whether you're watching or listening, come over to YouTube, leave a comment. It's one of the best ways to get in touch with us and be a part of the conversation.
Thanks for being here for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch Brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Hey, it's our 4th season as a host of Locked On Angels, talking Angels baseball with you 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, every single weekday, no matter how much they might disappoint us. Michael, on today's show, we're talking about Yusei Kikuchi as he gets the start tonight against the Yankees. What's he done to improve over these last 5 starts? Because he's been pitching well and pitching really good. Where will Trout hit in this lineup and play in the outfield when he returns? But we've got to recap last night's game. Mike, there was a lot of action in the 9th inning as the Angels tried to mount a comeback, but it was for naught as they fell 3-2. Too little, too late.
Right. Yeah, they were ready to do something. At the end of the game, Yoan Moncada, on his birthday, he's 30 now, he hits a solo home run to lead off the inning after trailing the Yanks 3-0. It's 3-1. Then Taylor Ward gets a single to left field, so we get a bit more excited, right? Travis d'Arnaud swings at the first pitch, fastball, kind of down the middle, cranks it out to center field, but it's just to the warning track, so that's the first out. Then Luis Rengifo singles to center. Ward ends up at third, and then Joe Adell grounds into a fielder's choice deep in the hole at short. They throw it to second base, and DJ LeMahieu has some gymnastics moves to try to get his foot on the bag. They did challenge the play, and it was call stands because it looked as though he did get his back toe, the toe of his back foot on the bag. Great play. And then Johnny Logan O'Hoppe comes up, and he pinch hits for Chris Taylor. And he's up 3-0, and all 3 pitches were high and away. And then he swings at a pitch that kind of on the border, but would have probably been a strike, maybe. But Devin Williams is struggling, and he swings at a 3-0 pitch, and he fouls out. He pops up to end the game. And those are moments that we've talked about. You could just hit copy and paste on this conversation. You just helped out a struggling pitcher. And he had to wait for the challenge. He had to wait to see if it was going to be a safe or an out call. And then he had to throw some warm-up pitches. He was already kind of messing around out there. And then you're one of their best hitters. I just get so frustrated in those moments where a good hitter decides to help out a pitcher that isn't doing very well in that moment.
Mike, this is the problem with you got to end the at-bat when you get your pitch. That was Logan O'Hoppe's pitch. The fastball up and in, he crushes those. It's how he's hit his home runs a ton this season, right? Now he got his pitch, but he was under it. It was a fastball. It was up and maybe a little too up, but that's where he crushes it. But that's the problem with the approach that they're preaching is you got to find that pitch. You got to find it. You got to find it. And so he found it and he swung at it and took the chance, but that ended the game because you could have taken the walk. You could have taken the strike. However, that call might have gone and you would have had to reset and find another pitch and it would have been just fine. But nothing was in the zone in that at bat. But that comes back to the coaching staff. That comes back to Johnny Washington's philosophy of you got to end the at bat when you get your pitch. And look, to Logan's credit, he got the pitch that he does damage on. And so I'm not going to fault him for that. I'm also not going to fault Joe Adell for anything ever, because he's the only one who has a plate approach at the plate these last few games. He's the only one taking pitches off the plate and swinging at stuff in the zone, because I have to make this note. I tweeted this out because Locked On Everydayer Brett Hutchinson asked me on Super Halo Bros. He said, how is it the same team won 8 in a row? It's mind-boggling. And I said, the approaches stink again. So I think this was by the end of the the 6th inning. Rodon was back out for the 7th. Of course, he went 7 scoreless. So far, to this point, the end of the 6th, he had 19 whiffs on Rodon's pitches. 48% of his pitches, 42 at that point, were in the zone. And 52%, 45 pitches, were out of the zone. And the Angels swung at 42% of those pitches out of the zone. Wow. 19 pitches out of the zone they swung at to that point in the top of the 7th. So to me, the approaches stink. And that's the way it was. Everything he threw, first pitch fastball on the outside half, outside of the zone, they would swing at it. He'd throw his his sinker, his changeup. He'd throw it all off the plate to start the at-bat. And the Angels didn't adjust. They didn't compensate. They didn't do anything. And then he's got that nasty slider that he can finish guys off with. And so all of that to say, the approaches were bad. And to his credit, I'm watching this game intently. Joe Adell had a great approach. And unfortunately, he didn't swing at some pitches he probably should have in that 9th inning and ended up getting that fielder's choice. But it's all for naught, Mike. You can't come down to the bottom of the 9th and, all right, here we go. We're coming. Yeah. And it's 3-0. How did you not put up any runs in those first 8 innings? It's absolutely ridiculous. Well, I can tell you how they did it. They swung at everything off the zone. And off
right. You also had a second tweet that you tweeted earlier in the night. You need to pull that one up and share that from Locked On Angels as well. Or was it Super Halo Bros? I think it was Super Halo Bros. But you were watching the game and you were speaking the words that I was thinking as I was watching the game. So read that one as well. Yes.
Hi, Angels. Just an FYI from an outside observer. Rodon is throwing his fastball off the plate away every first pitch. By the way, the second time through the order, he might change that approach. Just a heads up. And Colby, the Salt Lake Bee, one of our everydayers, said, "Can we get you guys in the dugout?" I said, "I wish." Gladly.
Yeah. And honestly, like that is it. It's funny because it's true, right? It's funny because it's true. You knew that there was not going to be an adjustment for the Angels against Rodon. He was throwing the same thing every single time. And then if he went up with a different approach, the Angels were not going to adjust their approach. And then they wait until the 9th inning to come through. Now, John, the last 4 games for the Halos, they're hitting under 500. They have a walk percentage that is 5.9. They have a K percentage that's 32.7. They have a 32 weighted runs created plus, 44 strikeouts, and 6 walks in those games. They scored just 3 runs, now 5 runs in the last 4 games. I saw this tweet from Jared Timms of Talking Halos. Angels runs scored, first 12 games, 65. Next 27, 79, which was the least in baseball. Next 11, 75, which was the most in baseball. And now we're back to being the worst. In the last 4 games, 5 total runs, which is tied for the least in all of baseball.
Isn't that the definition of what I said on yesterday's show? We have a 2-week sample size of them doing great. We have a month of them doing badly, another 2 weeks of doing great. And now here we are. Are we kicking off another month of bad baseball? Because that's what it feels like. So are we due for 23 more games of this? I'm hoping not, because it's absolutely ridiculous that this is what it's come down to.
Yeah.
Look, I wanted to go back to the 6 walks point, 44 Ks and 6 walks in the last 4 games. How many walks do you think you could have gotten if you just laid off those pitches on the outside from Carlos Rodon? And look, Bill Miller behind the dish wasn't perfect.
No.
He had some calls that went in favor of the Yankees, had some calls that went in favor of the Angels, but he wasn't calling those pitches off the plate like the other umpire was last night for Yarbrough, or 2 nights ago. And so take the chance. Yeah. He's not, and then even Devin Williams wasn't getting calls off the side of the plate in that 9th inning. So you didn't have to rely or not rely on the umpire there. You could have just laid off those pitches, but I don't know what they see, Mike. Like the approach drives me nuts. And I'll go back to the Ohapi thing. It's, you got to find your pitch and end the at bat. So are you telling me that your pitch to end the at bat, other Angel players, is that first pitch off the zone and away?
Right.
A fastball?
Right.
That's not your pitch.
No.
That's not the one that's going to end the at bat. And there's no possible way, because you're either going to swing and miss it and get a strike, or it's not going to go into play. So it just doesn't make any sense to me what this approach is supposed to be, because they seem approachless. They were all doing the same thing up there, chasing and going after that pitch on the outside of the zone. Doesn't make any sense to me, Mike.
They look so confused, and it's so weird. It's so odd because this was not the team that they were just last week, and that they can immediately just lose everything that they put together in the last couple weeks with that 8-game winning streak. And now they've given half of it back. And I was talking to Locked On Everydayer Cope, who's been on our show before, and he said something really interesting yesterday. He said it was as if getting back to 500 was the goal, right? Like, hey, let's get back to 500. Let that be the mile marker. And they got there, and then it was as if they couldn't think of anything else to do after they got there, because they're back to what they did before they got to 500. And there's no vision, there's no direction, there's nothing that calls them forward. And now you've dug yourself into a 4-game under 500 hole again, right?
Yeah.
And you're right. They're in that same approach and doing the same thing. And maybe this is perhaps the team that we're dealing with. And it might be just a reflection of the fact that they're young and they just don't have the ability to, to really step up in those moments. The problem, though, with that statement, John, is that it isn't just the young guys struggling. No. It's everybody struggling, right? Yeah. And they have these veterans. They're going to lead the way. And Chris Taylor is here, right? And he's going to give them all sorts of experience. And none of that translates into moments like this, into moments where they're falling apart, right? Into moments where, hey, we're back to 500. Now, guys, we lost the second game of that Marlins series. Let's go get that one today. We lost the first game of the Yankees series. Let's get that one today. It just feels like nobody is giving them any sort of direction, and they're all kind of silos out there trying to figure it out on their own.
Yeah, and they kick the can down the road. Well, we got to save Neto and Hoppy for the Yankees series. We can't play them on Sunday and try to win this series against the Marlins that we should win, right? And the other thing that cracks me up is, of course, one day after, Chris Taylor is going to be our primary center fielder. He's over in left field,
right,
and makes this incredible diving catch. And then Matthew Lugo's in center field and makes the worst error to cause a run to come in with Cody Bellinger.
Yeah,
and it's just like, what are we doing here?
Right.
And so, unfortunately, for those who are fans of Matthew Lugo, as soon as Trout is back, he's going to be sent down back to AAA, especially with an issue like that. And meanwhile, again, it's just these approaches are so bad. And I don't understand, like you said, it's the young guys, it's the veterans. So whatever's being preached is just like, Papa, don't preach. Don't preach.
Yes.
Right.
Like,
just don't preach at all. You know,
right.
Is it coming home? Is that the issue? I know they won on Friday when they came home, but like, what is it?
I don't know. I mean, I think what you have touched on earlier in our conversation might be something to at least consider, where they're looking for their pitch, and right now, I don't know if they know what their pitch is because they're swinging at all sorts of junk. And then when they do look for their pitch, they're helping out the pitcher, like in the ninth inning when Logan O'Hoppe swung at a pitch that he has crushed in the past. But John, that to me, like, that's a veteran move where you have to have somebody say to him, bro, take a pitch, right? Like, don't swing at this, because or somebody, Wash has got to be yelling that out to O'Hoppe in that moment.
But here's the thing, like, people are saying, well, the hitters have to perform, and how do you know it's the coaching staff's problem? Because Logan O'Hoppe is doing exactly what he's being told to do.
Right.
He's going after that pitch,
right,
because that's what these guys are hammering into the young mind's head, the young players' minds, right? Like, this is what they're doing, and Logan O'Hoppe is the perfect example of, okay, I'm going to listen to my coach.
Right.
And that's what's happening up and down this order. They are listening to the hitting coach. It's obvious. It's stupid obvious. And I'm tired of saying that it's not, because it's obviously what's being preached to them. Logan O'Hoppe is a perfect example of that.
There's one page in their playbook, and it's the playbook that they've given to them to look for your pitch, right? The problem is that on that second page, or what should be on that second page, is in that moment with Logan O'Hoppe, somebody yelling, hey, take a pitch. Right. Hey, take a pitch, right? Because he doesn't need to rush. He doesn't need to at all. Devin Williams is freaking out, and he's having a terrible year, right? And this is an opportunity to like at least take one. And it probably would have been a strike, but it was borderline. And so at least take one so that he has to work it. He has got to throw another one, right? Maybe you steal a bag. Those are all the things that everything they talked about in the offseason. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to put pressure and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. They don't do any of that while they're on the field. And they say that they believe in themselves and they say that they're not just a 500 team. They're better than that. Man, actions speak a whole lot louder than words in this instance. And if they believe in themselves, they certainly aren't showing it on the field.
Well, and the problem is that you have young, impressionable players listening to the coaches that they're supposed to be listening to. And Johnny Washington's nonsense of whatever he's preaching in the dugout and in the locker room is just not working. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Coming up, when Trout comes back, where does he hit and where does he play in the field? When can we expect him to be back? We're going to get into all of that coming right up.
The wife and I started using Monarch Money because we would keep track of our money on a white piece of paper with pencil. and we kind of looked at that and went, I don't know if that's actually the most productive way to keep track of all of our resources. Yeah. What I love about Monarch Money is they're a personal CFO. They're giving you full visibility and control over your finances. And it's not just a budgeting app. It doesn't just tell you what your bills are. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, your investments, and I'm learning how to do that because I'm an older man now and married with grown-up kids. Got to figure out that investment, that retirement stuff, because I don't want to work forever, right? And you can track not just your investments and your accounts, but your spending all in one place. You can have money conversations with your partner, and they can be smooth. They don't have to be stressful, and that's been helpful for our family. And on these shared and personal accounts, you can track everything. You can set goals. You can stay on the same page without all of the stress. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Go to their website, monarchmoney.com. Use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB. You're going to get 50% off your first year. Again, monarchmoney.com, promo code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year.
This is the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Mike Trout is close to returning, according to the reports. Jeff Fletcher of the OC Register wrote that Trout is on the field doing sprints. He has done this on back-to-back days for the first time, which is a great sign. They showed him running the bases on the broadcast, not at full strength, but just, making sure that he can do that. He's been hitting too, participating in batting practice on the field. The Angels are planning on having him get some at-bats against the Angels minor league pitchers soon, kind of like what Taylor Ward did. Trout's biggest remaining test is running the bases. Jeff Fletcher said, Mike Trout ran the bases lightly yesterday. He still has to run hard, stop, turn. That makes sense. You got a lot of, harsh turns and twists and things like that. And Wash commented and said he ran the bases lightly. And the next time he runs the bases, we're going to ramp it up a little bit, running and stopping and all of that. He also added, Trout certainly looks like he's ready to go. He walked off the field with his head high and a smile on his face, but his future is in our trainers' hands. When they say he's ready to go, he will be ready to go. Mike, where do they expect Trout to play once he returns?
Wash actually said he wasn't prepared to give an answer for that. He said, once Mike is back, we're going to have that conversation. We don't have pre-conversations, which I have thoughts about that, but we'll continue.
Shut up, Wash. After last night, I don't care. Shut up.
Before Trout got hurt, he played in all 29 games, started 22 of those in right field, 7 at DH. And so it's likely, John, that they're going to continue to do what they did with Trout before. They rotated Soler and Trout, right field and designated hitter. So what does all that mean for like Joe Adell and Chris Taylor? Well, according to Wash, he said Trout's the priority and they're going to put him where he's comfortable and where he fits best. John, couple questions here. And I think I'm going to start with the most important question. Trout coming back doesn't change this offense, right?
Interesting. I would hope it does,
okay,
Mike. But when it comes to the approaches at the plate, that's not going to change anything. What I think it will do is give guys like, well, it depends on where they fall in the order. We'll talk about the order in just a second. But, if Trout is batting third,
Mm-hmm.
Nolan Shonowell might see some better pitches, which he's handling his pitches pretty well. It really depends on where he is in this lineup and how that helps the surrounding players before and after him. And it might even, depending on where he is, he might even see some better pitches. Like if he's in front of Taylor Ward and Taylor Ward, finds it and goes on one of his hot streaks again, that's going to change things as well. So when it comes to the offense, yes, it will change the offense, but at the same time, I don't know if it's going to change the mindset. I don't know if it's going to change the coaching. I don't know if it's going to change what these guys are being told to do at the plate. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. And Mike Trout seems to be a guy who can kind of decide what he wants to do when he wants to do it.
Right.
And maybe even last night, Trout takes that high fastball that O'Hoppe didn't take if he's up at the plate at that point. I think when it comes to lineup, John, I don't think you mess with Neto and Shonowell 1-2. I think that has to stay 1-2. Wash has a tendency to overthink things, so we'll see what he does. I think Trout does slot into number 3, and then you have Ward and Soler just move down one. So Ward is batting 4th, and you have Soler batting 5th, and then O'Hoppe batting 6th, which actually is his best place to go in the lineup where he's put up his best numbers. Although this year at 5, he has been better. But I think that stretches the lineup out a bit more for this team and allows them to maybe perhaps have better at bats because they've got Mike Trout in there. And so with Taylor Ward hitting behind him, maybe Trout gets better pitches. Who knows how it will impact how the pitching on the opposing team approaches this team. But I don't think that I would mess with the 1-2 in this lineup because of how successful they've been.
Here's what I would like to do. If it's a righty on the mound, I'd love to see Moncada bat left from the 5th spot and move Soler down to 7 after Logan O'Hoppe, because Logan O'Hoppe can see better pitches because he's got Soler for, protection behind him, because Soler has the power to go yard, right?
Yeah.
Now, if it is a lefty on the mound, maybe you flip-flop that, because from the right side, Moncada just hasn't had as much success this season. I know it's not a very large sample size, but even in last night's game, right? He's batting right against Rodon, can't do anything. He's chasing those pitches off the plate. But then as soon as Devin Williams comes in, he's back to hitting left and he hits that home run. Now, obviously it's Devin Williams, but I would venture to say him batting left is obviously the better side for Yoan Moncada. So that's why if it's a righty on the mound, I put Moncada at 5th, Soler at 7th, and then you could easily flip-flop that. But the Angels are not that creative. They're not that creative when it comes to making these lineups. Ron Washington is not that creative. Nobody has the sense to recognize, like, oh, you know what? It'd probably be good to have a lefty after Taylor Ward, who can also hit some home runs at number 5. Nobody's going to do that. Nobody's going to listen. Nobody's going to take that into consideration. And so, we'll just speak to our everydayers and they can high five us when they say, hey, you guys should make the lineup. You should be in the dugout. Like, again, Colby, like you guys should be in the dugout. Yeah. Like, I appreciate the high fives, but it's so frustrating. It goes back to what we've been saying, Mike. The obvious answer should be the obvious choice. We said that early on when Ron Washington was making all kinds of bad bullpen decisions and stuff like that. Go with the obvious choice, because sometimes you just overthink things. And so, I just don't have any faith that the Angels will create a lineup with that kind of variance or variety in it.
Well, I disagree with you, and here's why. They're going to do it 15 games after Mike Trout shows up, because they're going to go, oh, this actually works a whole lot better.
That's true.
And then people are going to tweet at us and go, the Halo Bros were on that, right? The everydayers were on that.
Like the starting rotation, right? Yes. How we said, I shared a minor concern before the season. I said, I don't think I like the fact that Kohanowitz and Soriano are going back to back, and the same with Anderson and Hendricks. And look what's happened since they split them up, right?
Right. Yeah. And it was really kind of just a nonchalant comment too. You were like, this is the concern I have. And really wasn't even a part of like the main point of the segment. Yeah. And it's so funny that was figured out a month and a half into the season, right? And so I can see the Angels doing the same thing with the lineup, going, hey, actually, we really think that this actually works better if you have Moncada here and the Soler there. So get ready for the tweets and the social media messages and our everydayers going, yeah, we were talking about that a month ago, Wash. And that's the frustrating part about this coaching staff, is they don't do the obvious thing. And I think that that's a perfect way to put it. They don't do the obvious thing when the obvious thing is what you need to do.
All right, friends, mark your calendars. Wednesday, May 28th. That's when we declared that Yoan should bat 5th, Soler should bat 7th, and flip that when it's a righty or a lefty on the mound. And then, we'll get ready to share your tweets once it happens for these halos.
John, here's a remarkable stat. The Angels are the only team in baseball that has used just 5 starters all season long. That's remarkable considering that they haven't been a great pitching team for years and they've had a lot of injuries. And so that's, again, remarkable, right? And the starting rotation has been actually one of the better parts of this team so far this season, right?
Yeah, they have. And I will say, for everybody who was upset about the Kikuchi signing or the Hendricks signing, I think it was preseason. And it might have been on the episode where I said, hey, this team could sneak into the playoffs. These guys take up innings.
Yeah.
They don't get hurt.
Right.
And even Hendricks, who moved back to the bullpen for the Cubs for a little while last year, still had, I want to say, 160 innings pitched off the top of my head. None of the Angel starters have reached that number in the rotation that they've been using the last couple of years. I think Griffin Canning got to 180. I know Tyler Anderson got to 180. But this is why you have Anderson, Kikuchi, and Hendricks in the rotation, because Jack Ohanowitz has never done it before. Jose Soriano was hurt last year, so you don't know if he's going to be able to sustain it for a full season. So this is why they have those reliable arms. Yeah, they're not exciting. They're not thrilling. Yusei Kikuchi is probably the best out of all of them, and he's not been super fantastic. He's been, I would say, a great arm, but not an ace, right? He's supposed to be the ace of the staff, but he's actually just a number one in this rotation, right?
Right. And he has been somebody that he started off and he wasn't bad. His first 6 starts weren't bad, but he's really improved, Johnny. So here's his first 6 starts of the season: 0-4, 31 1/3 innings pitched, 4.31 ERA, 28 strikeouts, 18 walks. But his last 5 starts, 1-0, 28 1/3 innings pitched, a 1.91 ERA, 26 strikeouts, and 2 walks. So what's changed? We've talked about it on this show, but we want to specifically point it out. First, there were 2 things. First, his posture on the mound. Kikuchi is standing more straight up and down on the mound, which allows for a more consistent release point, and it gives Kikuchi more control over his pitches. When he was leaning back, his arm would wrap around his body and it would cause more snap on his pitches, which did 2 things. One, it caused him to strike out more batters, which is always a good thing. But 2, it caused him to miss the zone and actually walk more hitters. And so now with a better posture, Kikuchi is hitting the strike zone a whole lot more, which has allowed him to do the second thing, which is going deeper into games because he's in the zone more, John, and he's been able to be consistently getting into the 6th inning in almost every one of his starts.
Yeah, and on that note, if you go back to his first 6 starts where he had 31 1/3 innings pitched, Mike, that, rough math is like, that's about 5 innings per start, per 6 starts, right?
Yeah.
And then over his last 5 starts, he's at 28 1/3 innings. So you kind of move that to 30 and you get, that's about 6 innings per start on average. So it goes to show that it is allowing him to stay in the game longer. And then especially with that 1.91 ERA, having much more success on the mound.
Yeah. And all of this happened, John, this change in his posture happened when he had that blow up against the Twins. Remember, 2 innings?
Yeah.
He gave up 9 hits, 4 runs in those 2 innings on April 26th in Minnesota. And he noticed, along with Barry Enright, that he was overthrowing his breaking stuff. And so they were like, well, what is that? Why is he overthrowing that stuff? And they noticed that he was leaning back. And so they just said, hey, stand up straight. Your mama said stand up straight. You should stand up straight on that mound. And so that small thing helped him control everything and not overthrow anything, which has been what he's done in his last 5 starts. And he's been good for the Halos, and they're going to need him to be good, John, because tonight he is facing the Yankees. And good news, he has had some success against the Yankees, 13 games, 12 starts. He has a 5-3 win-loss record, 3.08 ERA with 72 Ks in 69 1/3 innings pitched. His last start against the Yanks was last April, went 6 innings, gave up a run, 9 strikeouts, and he won the game. And he's got to save this series for the Halos because they have not been great. Problem is, Tyler Anderson was really good last night, right? And if Kikuchi is really good tonight, that's not a guarantee that this team is going to back him up offensively.
It's frustrating when you can get Aaron Judge to go 1 for 4 with two strikeouts.
Yes, with runners on.
And you lose this game 3-0.
Yeah.
Because nobody is putting anything in play. Nobody is able to have a good approach at the plate. So I hate harping on this, but it just comes down to it. The pitching staff has given the Angels more than enough opportunities to get into these games. But I think it was a few weeks ago, Mike, we posted our show and the thumbnail said when 3 runs feels like 3 million.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it felt like going into that 9th inning. Now I know that they were able to get a couple back, but to wait the entire game to do that is so frustrating. And it didn't have to go down that way. And listen, I'm not taking anything away from Carlos Rodon. He's been great this year. He has that killer slider. And so I'm not taking anything away from Rodon. The Angels just made it easy on him.
Mm-hmm.
They made it very easy. And the funny thing is there's 2 things. Luke Weaver, who closed out the game on Monday night, they made him throw a lot of pitches.
Yep.
And so he was probably unavailable for last night's game. but also the Angels hitting was so bad that you could bring in Devin Williams to close out this game. And yet they made it close. But that feels to me like the mindset here is like, hey, look, they're not hitting anything. Let's bring in Devin Williams and save Weaver's arm for Wednesday's game if we're going to need him. So that's the unfortunate part about tonight is that Kikuchi could have another stellar outing. But until this offense turns things around and gets back to what they were doing 4 days ago, right? Like what fell out of your brain where you don't know what you're doing anymore? It just it drives me nuts. And it's a frustrating couple of days for us as Angels fans to watch these guys at the plate do what they're doing right now.
Hey, thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Now, for your second listen, check out Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. And you can find Game Night on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts.
So you're telling me that Yusei Kikuchi don't dance. He just pull up his pants and do the rock away. No more leaning back. No more leaning back. I'm sorry. I had to do it. Mike, make sure we've got to make sure our everydayers follow us on social media at Locked On Angels and at Super Halo Bros on Twitter and Instagram. Whether you're watching or listening, if you're still tuned in after that horrible joke, come on over to YouTube. Get in the comments section. We'd love to hear from you, Mike. What do we have on deck for tomorrow's show?
John, when we talked about Perry Manassian yesterday and his thoughts on the winning streak, there were a lot of questions about man, what's Perry's legacy? What do you guys think about what he's done with this team? So let's have that conversation tomorrow. What do we think his legacy is? If he has a legacy, is it good? Is it bad? Let's talk about it, give our opinions, share what he has done, and then talk about the future tomorrow on Locked On Angels.
I'm laughing because I realized that my dog has been sitting here through the whole show. So at least he didn't leave me. At least he thought my joke was good. He didn't tune out. All right, friends, we hope you'll come back and join us. Until then, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Thanks for being here with us, everybody, and we'll see you back here on Thursday.
I'm just swinging at pitches outside of the zone now.
Lean back.